Hello, everyone, and welcome to BodyBags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I'm Lonnie from Tats, and yeah, kind of a crazy new background, huh? Not exactly what you're used to seeing. Anyway, excuse me. I've been doing some moving around in here, trying to do a little remodeling, and so anyway, yeah, you really came to hear about that. Um, I'm taking a little bit of a break from reviewing Boris Karloff films, which I'm going to go back to it. I still, there's plenty of gold to mine there, but um, I just thought it'd be kind of fun to take a little bit of a break and work on some of the other Jekyll and Hyde movies. I've reviewed several for the channel so far, and I just thought it'd be fun to, also continue working on some of those. So the one that I want to talk about today is from 1988 and stars the late great Anthony Perkins. We are talking, of course, about Edge of Sanity. Yeah, you can see I have the Arrow Blu-ray here, and sorry about the glare off of that, but as you can tell, I have it sleeved and everything. So yeah, this movie was directed by, forgive me, I know I'm going to butcher this name, but Gerard Kikoine? Kikoine? I don't know. But yeah, I knew I was going to butcher that name. He was a French director who was known for working in both softcore and hardcore films. But in the 80s, he had attempted to make um, several, I believe, more like mainstream films and to try to get away from sex films. But if you watch this movie, it's like, nah, he didn't exactly stray away from that too far. And the movie is produced by Harry Allen Towers, who has produced a number of movies over the decades. He had done a number of movies with Jess Franco and so many others. He had done right after this. He produced that the Edgar Allan Poe film Buried Alive. That the one with Donald Pleasance and Robert Vaughn in it. But yeah, and then this here, obviously, the story is a very loose, rendition of the Jekyll and Hyde story, by Robert Louis Stevenson. And in the story, you have, Anthony Perkins. Take a big fat guess who he's playing in the movie. So there's Jekyll, and there's Hyde, and yeah, I mean, there's, it's like I said, it's a fairly loose adaptation. One thing it definitely does is it it brings in the story of Jack the Ripper, which that's not really. I do believe other. This isn't like the one and the only film, or even the first film to have, blended the story of Jack the Ripper in with Doctor Jekyll and Mister Hyde. I believe it's been done before, so I don't think this is the first film to have done it. But yeah, but it is a little bit on the nose that usually uh, I believe in the book and in the original. I think when the name was actually Edward Hyde, I want to say. I think it was Edward Hyde. I think it was like Doctor Daniel Jekyll and Edward Hyde. But in here it's like to make it more on the nose that this is talking about Jack the Ripper. That when he turns into Mr. Hyde, his name is Jack Hyde. So, but it's very similar to the other stories. He plays Dr. Jekyll, and he's working on experimenting with drugs and things like this. And one thing that is definitely very that is, I guess the best way I could say, there is definitely a social commentary in this movie about drug abuse and drug use and things like that, and the idea that like that Jekyll becomes a drug addict, and he tries to get away from it, but he can't, and that does play a strong part in the film. But but you have Jekyll. He's very bored with his life. He's married to his wife Elizabeth, who, but he's just so he is just so like tired of being of having to live by societal norms, and tired of always having to try to be respectable, and always trying to like to follow, like society's moral codes and everything else. And so even in his Jekyll state, that's one thing, Anthony Perkins, really did embrace playing this part. And it is noted, especially in the bonus features and things like this, that by the time Anthony Perkins made this movie, he had pretty much just embraced, you know, for a long time after Psycho, like he did not want to, he was not happy with, the kind of the way it had pigeonholed him as as an actor and everything, and he wanted to go on. Like Psycho was just meant to be, like one role, and he was, and like any actor, like he wanted to show people that he could play anything, that he could do anything, and that he was a very versatile actor and everything. But just over the decades and stuff like that, just unfortunately he could never get away from, like that was the thing. He was Norman Bates, and that's what everybody knew him as. And he finally, by the time he had made this movie, and in the '80s, with like Psycho 2 and 3, and the movie he did before this, Crimes of Passion, like he pretty much just, he finally hit the point. He just embraced it. He just embraced it and said, you know what, like it's it's either this or just nothing. And so he finally decided to embrace it, which you could tell, like making this movie, you could tell that he's definitely having fun playing this role. And unfortunately, though, like I said, this is 1988, so it was only, sadly, it was only just a few short years later we would lose him, and from AIDS and things like that. So, but just he does give a great performance in this film, though, and he's a lot of fun to watch. And there are moments he does make you kind of uncomfortable, and this movie it's unsettling, and it's mean spirited, and the ending is gonna kind of like throw you for a loop if you haven't seen it already. If you have seen it already, you already know what I'm talking about, and it just, it is, like I said, it's a downer movie. It's like I said, it's a mean spirited film, but Perkins, you could tell he's giving it his all. And this is one of those movies, though. Like I'm glad that that there are bonus features on here that you could talk, that you hear about the story behind the film and everything else, because you would think that watching the movie like years ago, watching the movie without any bonus features that give you any context into Perkins or his career at the time, or how he felt about things, or anything like that. You would think that this was probably, looking at this movie, you would probably feel like, well, because of all the sex and the nudity, and in which there's quite a bit of it in here, and because of all the sex and the nudity, and just the killing and stuff like that. I mean, this doesn't exactly, this isn't gonna exactly hold up to the same standard as like Psycho, but still. So you would think, like, without any kind of bonus features, like watching it, you would think that, yeah, that Perkins is probably like in a career slump, but that's not really the case. By then, he pretty much embraced it, and he was just going with it. He was having fun with it, and he was just enjoying, getting the roles and acting, and and everything else, and just playing the part. So, and but it's like he does. That's the thing, like in this version, usually it was always in Jekyll and Hyde stories. Usually he drank a potion, and that's what would turn him into, that would turn him into, Mr. Hyde, or he would, inject himself with a serum or something like that. In this one here, you could tell we kind of update it a little bit, like in this here, he's like smoking like basically like crack cocaine, and that's what, makes him transform into Mr. Hyde and stuff. And, the movie is like, it's so beautifully shot, and, it's gorgeous. It's well filmed. You listen to the bonus features, the term expressionist keeps popping up a lot. And it's like, yeah, you could definitely see what they mean by that, but it's like the movie it's a British slash Hungary co-production, and it's like, I believe it was the interior sets and things like that were filmed in London, and but the outside, I believe, was filmed in Hungary, and so, but it's a beautiful looking film. It's gorgeous. The sets. Some of them are a little gaudy, but definitely very colorful and everything else. And you know, um, but of course, like when he turns into Doctor or Mr. Hyde in this version, he basically becomes Jack the Ripper, and he goes out and he looks for prostitutes and he's murdering them and gets into sexual debauchery and all this other kind of stuff. But you know, yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of it. I mean, there's not too much more to say about this. I mean, if you know the story of Jekyll and Hyde, you kind of already know what you're getting with this. It's very bloody. It's a lot of nudity and stuff like that. Um, I honestly, it's like, yeah, I like the film, and that's the thing. I here pretty soon we're going to be doing a theme week where we're going to be talking about like international horror films, and one thing I'm looking forward to is talking about French horror films, and this is from a French filmmaker and stuff like that. So it's going to be fun to be able to talk about that when that time comes. But yeah, I do enjoy this film. But I would say, it's like when you watch a movie like this, you need to approach it with a mature attitude. If you go into this being childish and all this other kind of stuff, it's like, yeah, this movie's definitely not going to work for you. But I think if you go into it with real, just be, have a mature mindset about it and things like this and approach it that way, you might enjoy it more. But of course, a movie like this, it's not going to be for everybody. But Anthony Perkins, he was always great to watch, and it's really sad that he's gone and he left as early as he did. It would have been nice if we could have seen more movies with him. But one other thing, though, too, I want to mention, though, is one thing that is actually kind of interesting in this movie is, especially when you remember the fact that this movie came out in 1988. One thing that is kind of interesting about this film is that, for a movie that takes place in the 1800s and all this stuff, the funny thing is like the prostitutes, like so many of the people in the movie, like even though this is the 1800s, they're dressed like the 1980s. I'm not even joking. It's like you could tell, the first victim that when he becomes, Dr. Jekyll, the first victim that he takes, this prostitute, she's dressed like Madonna. I'm not even joking. She's dressed like Madonna from like the 1980s Madonna and everything. And everybody in this movie, they all look like the movie looks like a 90-minute, a 1980s music video almost. It's like the dress and the makeup and the hair and the style and everything else. It's kind of interesting, for this period piece, for the 1800s, and so much of it looks like the 1980s and everything else. You're expecting, there are parts in this movie you're expecting like Madonna or Prince or Wham or somebody to come out and start singing a song and everybody start dancing, or like when he's in a brothel or something like that, you're expecting Pat Benatar to show up and start singing "Love Is a Battlefield," but it's very interesting. It's an interesting film, and I like it, and yeah, but like I said, just a movie like this, the only way you can enjoy a movie like this, you got to approach it with a mature attitude. It's just, if you're going to be childish about these kind of things, about things like blood and nudity and sex and gore and things like this, and yeah, this movie's not going to work for you. So, but anyway, I think I've said pretty much about all of it that I know how to say. So that's it. So if anybody took the time to watch this, I thank you for doing it. Go ahead, check it out. I really do think it's a good film. And if nothing else, just watch it so you can see one more great performance by Anthony Perkins. He deserved it. It's like I said, he was such a good actor, and unfortunately, we lost him too soon, and just sadly, we didn't get more movies with him. But anyway, so yeah, if any of you took the time to watch this, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, would you please leave it a like? And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the BodyBags channel. We have a different reviewer, one for every day of the week. I am the Saturday reviewer. I'm working with a bunch of great guys. We're all doing really good stuff here. We got fun theme weeks coming up, label weeks, year weeks, all kinds of good stuff. And, it's like so much more to look forward to, and I'm happy to be a part of it. So that's it. So everybody, take care. Have a good night. I'll see you later.